How do you train your team and make sure they align with their core values?
I think you don't. I think you hire those people with those core values.
Interesting.
And if they don't have those core values today, they're not going to stick around.
And today I'm joined with a very special guest, Steve Trang. You mentioned that your wife told you to go back and get a job.
Yes.
What was that like?
I just went straight to where the bankers were, got their contact info, got them drunk, got business. If they have a problem with it, then they don't belong in our company. If you're not going to be a good leader, then the alternative is turnover. And turnover is a silent killer in your business.
What does your onboarding process look like to actually get them up to KPI and cranking deals?
So the most important thing is the onboarding process.
What are some of the lessons and mistakes that you've made?
And we did all of that to break even. And I haven't shared this with anybody else.
Hey guys, my name is Benjamin, CEO and founder here at Bolt Deals, and today I'm joined with a very special guest, Steve Trang. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good.
Awesome.
Doing good.
First off, I appreciate you coming on. I know we had a bit of a scheduling issue, but I'm glad you were able to make it work.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you reaching out. I mean, like, you were very professional. You scheduled it way ahead of time. Let me know, and you flew out. I mean,
yeah,
I think it's pretty professional on your part to make this all happen.
I sort of want to share a story that I have, a quick story.
Yeah.
Because 4 years ago, when I was still a freshman in high school, I tuned into your podcast to learn your sales stuff.
Okay.
To teach my clients.
Wow. All
so
right.
I just wanted to share that, and that's when you were doing the thing with Max. So I sort of want to dive straight into that.
Yeah.
What was that like?
When
you partnered with Max? Like, how did you guys come together?
So the story with Max, and you do know we're not working together anymore, right?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
So the way it came out with Max is actually back when I was still wearing my realtor hat, and I was wholesaling on the side.
Correct.
So wholesaling was a side hustle, right? And so I posted a job on Craigslist, and the ad was basically, it was something along the lines like, unlimited upside, make as much money as you want to make. All you got to do is call this number and leave a voicemail. And he called that number and he left a great voicemail. I don't have it anymore, but it was something along the lines like, "I'm the best hire you're gonna make." Right?
Okay.
Like you don't want to make the mistake of losing out on me. Whatever it was a good voicemail.
Okay.
Right. So I brought him in, and he was basically my inside salesperson. This industry calls them lead managers.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Which I still don't know why we call them that. But anyway,
They manage leads.
there's a lot of different ways you can call them. But anyway, lead manager, inside salesperson, and he was basically scheduling appointments for my realtors.
Gotcha.
Right. Because my realtors would go out, either list the house or buy the house.
Gotcha.
So everyone that was a licensed realtor on my real estate team had the opportunity to either buy it or lock it up, and then I'll either buy it myself or wholesale it.
Okay.
After working with Max, I want to say about a month and a half, he started telling me like, "Hey, I'm into wholesaling. I do this thing." He's like, "Do you do that?" I was like, "Yeah, like I do a lot of it."
Okay.
Right. And so once he started working with me, I saw that this is somebody someday in the future that can run my investment division.
Let me ask you this. Why do you feel like that was the case? Like, what did you see in him to make that conclusion?
He had confidence, charisma. Later on, like we went to a Sean Terry event together. He had actually gone to a Sean Terry event before I ever went to a Sean Terry event.
Wow, okay.
And so we went together, and I'm seeing him. He's talking to everybody. He's networking. So he's doing all the things that you need to do to be a successful wholesaler.
Okay.
Right? So I kind of saw that he was into that. And it was pretty clear he was way more interested in the wholesaling side than the realtor side.
Gotcha.
And then so the other thing too was he was not very good as far as dealing with the realtors. Not to say it's a bad thing.
Okay.
But he had a very low tolerance for their attitude.
Yep.
And so like when they were getting pushback, well, that wasn't a good appointment. He's like, well, it's not my fault if you can't close the deal. So not the great like bedside manners.
Yeah.
But again, I saw like here's a guy who wants to wholesale, enjoys wholesaling, and I could see again leading that division.
Gotcha. So you had him lead. So you partnered with him basically on the wholesale side.
So I hired him.
Okay.
And then after a few months, he quit.
Oh. Wow.
Because he did his first wholesale deal on his own on the side.
Gotcha.
And he's like, now he's doing this wholesale deal on the side. He's like, well, I'm making so much over here doing this on my own. Why would I work over here, right? Because it was like a small base plus like percentage.
Gotcha.
Which I respected, right? I was like, oh, hey, you know what? You want to go do your own thing? That's fine. I had this different vision for you, but like you want to go do your own thing? Go do your own thing, right? Totally fine. No bridges burned whatsoever, right? And we kept in touch.
Okay.
And I saw that he was still wholesaling, and I saw that he was having some challenges, right? Like he wasn't saying, I'm having a hard time, but you see people's posts, you can kind of infer some things, right? And so I'm just reaching out to him, like, hey, like, how's it going? And he was saying, like, I'm frustrated. Like, what's going on? He's like, I partnered up with this other guy, right? And this guy's funding all the deals,
Okay.
but I do everything else. Like, what does that mean? He's like, well, like, I'm dealing with the marketing, meeting the homeowners, I'm meeting with the buyers, I'm dealing with the contractors.
Yeah.
Like, I'm doing all these things. Like, you're doing all those things? He's like, yeah. It's like, and you're only getting 40%? He said, yeah. I said, I'll do that. Because I think I'd be an easier partner to work with.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so we agreed. So I basically, the rules were like, look, I'll leave you alone. You go do whatever you got to do to go get deals. I'll fund it. You get operations. You just go do everything else.
Gotcha.
Right? And that actually was a pretty good situation for quite some time.
Okay.
The cracks in the foundation began
Oh.
when I launched the education side.
Real estate disruptors.
Not the real estate disruptors, but like the mentorship stuff, right?
Okay.
And basically the arrangement there was because at that point he was getting 40% everything, I was getting 60% everything, right?
Correct.
And I said, look, how about we do this? You're just going to be 50-50 partners. We're going to be 50-50 on the wholesaling side.
Okay.
I'll do, and I haven't shared this with anybody else, right? I'll do the education side.
Okay.
So I'm going to run this side. You don't have to do anything, right? And you'll get 20% of the education company. So you get 20% of the education company. I'll get 80%. All I need you to do is keep wholesaling.
I
Just
see.
keep doing what you're doing.
Why don't you share with the people why you did that split?
Because he was doing the work, right? 40% wasn't fair if he was running all of it,
Yeah.
right? So he gets that side, and then education has this higher upside, right? So we'll do that. And like people are asking for it. People were coming to me and it's like, Steve, we want you to teach us to do what you do.
Yep.
It's like, okay, right? I'm an entrepreneur. If enough people ask you to do it,
You do it.
you do it,
Yep.
right? And so, I took off with it, and part of it too, right, is the credibility component, right?
That's
like,
what I was.
yeah,
That's,
like
that's
you
what I
have
was thinking.
to,
do the business.
you have to do the
actually teach.
business.
Yep.
If you're teaching wholesaling, you have to be wholesaling, right?
Yep.
And so that model worked, but I know that's when the cracks in the foundation started because I know he wasn't happy with that arrangement, even though it was an improvement upon the previous arrangement. He probably wanted the same percentage on both companies,
That makes sense.
right? We didn't have any like difficult or formal conversations about it, but I think that's when the cracks probably began.
My question for you is: from that experience, what did you learn from it?
What did I learn from that?
What's your biggest takeaway from that experience?
I mean, I could have asked him what he thought was fair,
Okay.
but I still thought that was fair. So I guess really the only thing would have
Okay.
been like to ask him
Yep.
what he wanted. But I don't know if I would have changed anything.
Absolutely. And from what I've seen, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you went from doing specifically wholesale coaching to doing broad coaching. Could you?
So
elaborate?
I coach on sales, right?
Correct.
So it's objection-proof
right,
selling.
sales in like other industries as
Yeah,
well.
multiple industries, right? But it's sales. So like, how do you get better at sales as a salesperson, and how do you get optimal sales performance as a business owner from your sales guy? So those are the two things that I teach now.
Let's dive into that. What makes a bad salesperson?
A bad salesperson is a person that thinks they know what's going on.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So like, we all have this story. Like, how many times have you heard a wholesaler? It's like, oh, that was a bad lead. Or like, well, how do you know it was a bad lead? Well,
Yep.
you know, they were asking for too much on the form.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, no, like their job is to lie. The other person's job is to lie to the salesperson.
Yep. The
So you-
prospects are liars. The
Prospects,
buyers are
they have
liars.
to, right? They have to lie to protect themselves.
Correct.
Right? Because like, you wouldn't show up to a car dealership in an Uber. Right? You would never do that. Why
I
would
have,
you?
funny enough.
You have?
Yeah.
Right? But generally speaking, you know, the old story of getting dropped off at a car dealership in a taxi, like, you got sharks, right,
Yeah.
swimming around you.
Yeah.
So it's their job to lie to you, to protect themselves, to stop you from taking advantage of them.
Yep.
So a salesperson that like believes them straight up, that's a problem. So you can't believe them because their job is to lie to you and protect themselves. The other thing too is they'll come with preconceived notions, right? Like, hey, this is a good area, this is a good house. I'm not gonna be able to buy this house, and they'll tell themselves a story. When in reality, this person might be so rich they don't care what they get for the house,
Yep.
or they need to move tomorrow, right? They need to move tomorrow. Like, the house is irrelevant to the situation.
Yep.
But they'll tell themselves a story like, this is a good house in a good area, move-in ready condition. they could list it tomorrow, right? The way it looks. It's like, oh, this is not an opportunity. It's like, no, like it's not about the house.
Yep.
It's about their situation.
Correct.
So a bad salesperson is one that is putting in preconceived notions, is believing the notes, it's not letting the homeowner share their story. They're thinking it's about the house when it's not about the house at all. Not following a process. The things that we are looking for in a salesperson is empathetic.
What does that mean to you?
Empathetic, that they can understand where the other person's coming from, right? Like, I understand exactly what you're going through. I understand how you got to the situation. I understand what you're worried about, what's keeping you up at night, and what you're hoping that we can do for you. What's going to be like when you go, right? Once this is finished, you got your money in your bank account, what your life can be like afterwards. I can articulate all that back to you, right? Not just the words, but the pictures, the movie. They can see what's going to be like after everything's said and done.
How do you, because there's a pretty big perception of salespeople, slimy sales guys.
Yeah.
How do you train a salesperson to genuinely care about the prospect as opposed to just saying words on the script with a specific tone at a specific pace and actually care about the seller?
Well, if you're a complete sociopath and you have the inability to care, then you better figure out how to care, because if you don't care, you're not going to be successful. People can tell if it's just about the money. So if
Commission breath.
commission breath, right? So like, the reality is, if you are unable to care, you just won't be a good fit in our organization, and you won't be a good fit for the process.
Let's talk about that when it comes to recruiting and hiring salespeople.
Yeah.
What does that process look like for you?
So we've been pretty fortunate. Our best hires have come through referral.
Okay.
Right? People want to work for us.
Yep.
Like, every time I post a job, like, we get flooded. That's the power of having social media.
Yep.
And a good reputation. But one of the things that, we teach other people to do as far as hiring goes is posting nonstop. Always be recruiting. That's a lesson I learned.
Never stop selling, never stop recruiting.
Never stop recruiting, right? Like, the best way for your salespeople to be, not the best, one of the best ways for your salespeople to be accountable is for them to know that there is a line out the door for other people that want their jobs. Right?
Absolutely.
So always be recruiting. The other things too, I never really appreciated years and years ago when I was learning about making sure they're a good fit.
What does that mean? What does a good fit look like to you?
So these are great questions, by the way. You'd be excellent at sales. I'm sure you are.
We'll talk about that another day.
The first thing is core values, right? And I think a lot of people have gotten that down. Core values. So, like, for us, growth mindset, integrity, service-oriented, urgency, extreme ownership, right? Like, we've got that pretty good. And I think most companies by now have appreciated core values, right? So that's the first thing.
Yeah, you can continue, because I had a follow-up on top of that.
Yeah. The second thing now is we're using predictive index. I need to know.
The test.
It's a personality assessment.
Yep.
I need to know that you're independent, have social skills, or have urgency, and can move with the details as they change, right? You're a problem solver.
Yep.
I need to know that you have these characteristics.
Okay.
If you can't make a decision on your own, it's not going to be a good fit, because I need you to close. I need you to be competitive. If you don't have social skills, this is going to be a struggle.
Yeah.
And I don't have natural, strong social skills, right? So I probably wouldn't even hire myself. But, strong social skills, the urgency, like, let's get this done, let's get this done, let's get this done, versus, like, I'll call that lead later, right? I'll do the fault later. I was like, no, like, someone that's urgent right now. And then, like, things are changing all the time.
It's appreciating the lead.
Yeah.
Because a lot of salespeople that I speak to nowadays, and I'm actually guilty of this myself, is like, I'll follow up with them later, another lead comes in, by tomorrow, I already forgot who that guy is.
Yeah. Your host.
Yep.
Right? So those are the things we're looking for on the predictive index. And then now we're also added Working Genius.
What is that?
Working Genius is something from Patrick Lencioni. Is another assessment, which kind of figures out, like, what are the things you like to do? Do you like to wonder? Do you like to invent? Do you like to discern? Do you like to galvanize?
That's awesome.
Do you like to support people, or do you like to get things done? Which of those 6 are you, right? And based off of that, again, I'm going to figure out whether I want to hire you or not.
I want to take a step back. You mentioned something about core values, and that core values and having a mission statement, to me, goes under the same sort of bucket.
It all goes together. Yeah.
Yep, it all goes together. So my question for you is, what is the purpose of core values in your company, and how do you actually get your team to align with their core values? Because the reason why I say this, and I'm sure you've seen this a lot, is that many wholesalers, their mission statement is to serve sellers within their market, help the seller, and then their core values is have integrity, honesty. To me, I'm just an outsider looking into it. I think it's straight BS. So my question is, like, for you, how do you train your team and make sure they align with their core values?
I think you don't. I think you hire those people with those core values.
Interesting.
And if they don't have those core values today, they're not going to stick around.
That's awesome.
Yeah, right.
awesome.
So, like, I remember the very first time I went to an event. It was Darren Hardy, years and years ago, right? And he talked about core values. And as he was done, he's like, I can see it. I can see, looking around the room, there's a couple of you guys in here that are realizing that you have some really bad core value fits in your organization. And I was like, yep. And he's like, and what you're going to have to do is when you get back to your office is let them go.
Yep.
And I did.
Gotcha. Now, I want to talk about your sales process, right? Let's say you hire somebody. Most of your people come through referrals, and they come in. You onboard them. What does your onboarding process look like to actually get them up to KPI and cranking deals?
So the most important thing is the onboarding process.
Why? Why is the onboarding so important?
Because this sets the pace for the rest of their career at your company.
Okay.
Right. So we have everything we use now is Go High Level. So we use it for our education company. We use it for managing our salespeople, and we use it for recruiting. Right. So if you recruit, it all goes into Go High Level because we have workflows all built out for recruiting instead of Go High Level.
Yep.
So part of that is, I'll give you an example here. We just hired someone to join an organization beginning of this month. Right, it's been 4 weeks. He's got a 30, 60, 90. Right. Here's what I expect after 7 days.
Oh, 36. Okay, 90 days. Okay.
Yeah. So here's what I expect after 7 days. This one was more important because I was out of town. Like I was out of town on vacation, and then I was out of town for Collective Genius, a mastermind.
Yeah.
It's like I hired this guy, and I'm not even gonna see him for like 6 days. It's like, here's what I expect after 7 days. Here's what I expect after 30 days. Here's what I expect after 60 days. Here's what I expect after 90 days. And it's all written out.
Gotcha.
There's no confusion. At the end of 30 days, here's what I expect from you.
Gotcha. Okay. And then let's talk about metrics. What metrics are you looking for, or sort of daily KPIs that you have salespeople in, say, your company, in the coaching company? Like, what are the metrics they have to hit? And more specifically, why are those metrics so important? Like, why do you care about those metrics? Reason why I ask is because I believe that each KPI, each metric on that board tells a story. So I'm curious what that looks like for you and your coaching company.
So for us, dial attempts, talk time. I want to say those are the two I care about the most.
Are we talking about setters or closers here?
Closers.
Okay. So you have your closers dialing as well.
Yeah, I mean, education's a little bit different.
Okay.
So, like, there's not as many leads to talk to, right? We're not spending as much to get as many leads to come in.
Okay.
And so, like, it's pretty manageable. So, yeah, they have quite a bit of talk time for the number of dials.
Gotcha.
So, but yeah, I would say, dials and talk time. I think those to me are the two most important things, because if you control those two things, everything else works itself out.
Yep.
Right? Like, you can't have closings without those things.
Yep.
And it's pretty, like, the math is pretty simple. If you have this many conversations, you have this much talk time, it will lead to this many opportunities, will lead to this many signed contracts, closed sales, that leads to this revenue, and so on.
Gotcha. Can you tell us a little bit more about your training processes? Like, some wholesalers or some entrepreneurs in general, they have morning huddles, and some don't. So I'm like, what is your opinion on sales huddles in the mornings? What does your call review training look like with your team?
So right now, I'm incredibly lucky. I got a guy named Ian Ross. He works in an organization. Found me, ironically, or funny enough, from my podcast I did with Jordan Belfort, right? So
you did a podcast with Belfort?
Yeah.
That's
so
amazing.
So he's a big Jordan Belfort fan. Watched that podcast,
Dude,
this Steve guy's interesting. Let me check him out. And so we work together. And so he does the trainings with them on Tuesday afternoons. I do trainings with them Wednesday mornings and Friday afternoons. His calls, He's dealing with them on like the technical stuff. I'm doing on Wednesday mornings objection handling. Like, what are the objections you're getting? What are the objections you're having a hard time overcoming? And then Fridays, we do call reviews. Here's where we're, the rubber meets the road. I'm listening to this. I was like, hey, this happened. Because they're not aware of what they're doing wrong, right? This is game review, right? In NFL, you're watching game film. This is film review. What's happening on the field?
Yeah. I feel like I sort of want to sort of interrupt you there, but I feel like you are like a player and a coach. So I don't know if this resonates with you, but this is something I run into. I review my call as when I'm taking the call. Like, does that make sense? So I feel like you have that trait. Is that true or no?
Yeah. I mean, I can tell when I screw up during a call.
Yeah.
Like, if I screw up during a call, I already know. Well,
how do you pivot?
So something that I've talked about recently, like this is a concept I started teaching last week, so 8 days ago. There's nothing wrong with taking a timeout. And I've never heard anyone talk about that as far as running a sales appointment, right?
What does that mean?
I'll say
a timeout.
So there's a point during an appointment where you feel like you're losing the sale, right? It's like, oh, I'm off the rails. This is bad. I need to fix this, right? And when that happens, it's a lot like sports where like when you hear they say they've got the defense on their heels.
I don't watch sports.
Okay, so the idea is if the defense is on their heels, then like they're really easy to attack, right? Because they're like all over the place.
Yeah.
And so something that I've shared with some of our coaching clients recently is that there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, Ben, can you give me a second here? I'm trying to get a handle on the situation here. And just take that 3 to 6 seconds, take a time out, and come up with your next question, which is going to be a surgical strike to get this appointment back on track.
When you said that, when you role played that into the microphone just now, you lowered your tonality, or you slow down your tonality, and you lower the volume of your voice.
Yeah.
Why?
Because that's how it has to come across that way. I say, hey, Ben, you know what? This isn't going well. Can I just give me a second here? It's not going to work. So you need to feel like I'm lost.
Okay. Have you ever done you take a restroom strategy, walk around the house, take a breath on the balcony or something, and then come back in?
It's probably not a bad idea, but no, I've never done that. I will share, and this might come across as completely, cocky and arrogant. But like, I feel like during the game, and this kind of you said a moment ago, I have this trait. I feel like I don't have to do that, right? I feel like within a second, I kind of know like I messed up.
And the reason why I say that is because it's something that I run into, right? Like if a prospect, if I'm on the phone with somebody, whether it's with a client or a potential, somebody who's looking to work with us, and I just get lost with they're just telling me so much stuff, and I'm like, where is the pain? Where is the goal? I will literally just like, hey man, let me take a restroom break. I'll walk around, and as I'm walking to the restroom, I'll have like, that's his pain.
That's a good idea. No, I don't do that.
Yeah, it gives me like an opportunity to reset my brain.
Yeah. Well, no, but that's the point, right? The timeout is like, hey, give me a second. I want to just make sure I understand what's going on here. I want to gather my thoughts, and you just continue.
So from what I understand with real estate disruptors, you're doing sales training. So you're training sales reps, which is what it sounds like.
I am primarily working with the sales reps. I'm also working with the business owner / sales manager, but most of the time it's with the salespeople.
What do you look for in a sales manager? And the reason why I say that is because many business owners in general, I'm guilty of this. They think that their top closers, just because they're closing the most amount of deals, should be sales manager as well. So what is your opinion on that?
If you want to light money on fire, I think that's a great strategy.
Why? Because it like logically makes sense. So why not?
Because you're taking your best player off the field and you're putting them in a zone of incompetence. Like if you can imagine, would Phil Jackson ever?
I have no idea who that is, by the way.
Okay, that's fine. Most of the people hopefully will know. Would you take Phil Jackson, or would you take Michael Jordan and say, hey, sit here and be the coach? You wouldn't, right? Would you take Tom Brady, peak season, peak career, and say, hey, we're going to put you in as quarterback's coach so you can coach the next quarterback? You wouldn't, right? You would do whatever you can to keep Tom Brady on the field, Patrick Mahomes on the field. You would keep your best players on the field.
Yep.
So why in business would we ever take our best players off the field? It's outrageously dumb, right? We think it's the next normal thing to do. We've all seen it happen, right? But this happens in college, right? You've heard the expression, those that can't do, teach.
Yes.
Right? In college, they're all idiots. They can't teach worth crap, right?
Who, professors?
Yeah, professors.
I've never went to, I don't know.
So in college, most of the professors are dumb, right? And they can't teach it. They know a little bit, but they can't teach it. You look at when I was in Intel, right? I was an engineer,
Correct. A mechanical engineer.
electrical, right?
Oh.
That's fine. So, but when I worked at Intel, they would promote managers. They would promote the good engineers to become managers. So what have you done? Took the good players off the field and you put them in a zone of incompetence, right?
Yep.
They don't like people. They're engineers. So it doesn't work there. So it's the same thing in sales. If you take your best closer and you put them in a management position, you're taking your best player off the field. You're hurting yourself financially twice. You have an incompetent manager and you lost your best player.
What makes a good manager?
Someone that actually wants to help, not the best closer, right? So generally speaking, the manager you hire is not the best closer. So someone that wants to help. So we hire somebody. So you heard me talk a moment ago about the working genius.
Correct.
So we hired a guy, and he's an EG&T, meaning that he likes to support people.
Okay.
He likes to cheerlead people, root for them, and he likes to get things done. So all day, every day, he's just talking to the sales guys, talking to the staff. Hey, what's going on? What can I help you get done today?
Yeah.
Incredible
Yep.
for a management role.
Yep. What KPIs do you put on your manager to know that he's doing his job properly?
So we're still working that out at this exact moment.
Okay.
But the things I'm looking for is a number of call reviews,
Okay.
number of one-on-one conversations with the sales reps. I think for me, those are the two biggest things.
I have a question there. Why number of call reviews? And do you look at that as so do you have paired KPIs? And the reason why I ask is I'm guilty of this mistake. I thought that the more call reviews I did, the better my sales team would perform based off of closed deals or increasing close rate. But what if the quality of those call reviews are not as good? How do you measure that?
The quality of the call review,
Because you can do 20 call reviews, but if your sales team doesn't improve their close rate, it's like, what a waste of time.
well, then you get rid of them.
That's fair. Okay. I guess that didn't make sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
if they're not getting better. So like, I'll work with you as long as you're trying and you're getting better.
Okay.
If you're not trying, go work somewhere else. Go cost someone else money.
Yeah.
If you're not getting better, and I'm doing it, if I'm coaching you, I like to think I'm a pretty good coach. If I'm coaching you, you're not getting better. Now we have another issue. Go work somewhere else. Right? Like, I will do everything I can for you to succeed.
Okay.
But if I'm doing everything I can for you to succeed and you're not getting better, this just isn't the place for you. Either
Better
it's
as
not the
in
career.
close rate, or how do you measure? Better as in what? If you had to put a metric to it.
Close rate is the ultimate measure,
Okay.
really. But I would say, are you setting expectations correctly? Are you using tonality correctly? Are you mirroring? Are you summarizing? Are you recapping? Are you exploring the depths of their pain to the maximum degree? Have you helped them recreate the movie that's going on that got them to here? And can you help them see the movie of after they sold their house? Have you prevented remorse? All these things. I'm looking at perfect performance, right? We're aspiring for excellence. I don't demand excellence, but I demand that we shoot for excellence.
Makes sense. Script versus framework. Where are you at with that?
Framework 100%.
Why?
Because a script. So have you ever played poker?
I don't know. No.
All right. So I've played a lot of poker in my life, right? One of the great things about poker,
Do you think that makes you a good sales guy playing poker?
I think it helps a lot in places in life. I wouldn't say it necessarily helps you in sales, but it helps you in a lot of places in life.
Like what?
Right. Dealing with adversity, dealing with challenges, reading people, dealing with their emotions, handling your own emotions, right? Emotional regulation. When a good hand goes wrong, can you keep it together, right? So there's a lot involved in poker, making decisions, right? Statistical decisions, making mathematical decisions on the fly, all of that.
When you say you read people, can you break that down? Like, what are you looking at? Are you looking at like their toes pointed this way if they don't want to talk to you? If their toes pointed away, their shoulders drop, their eyebrow frowns? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I would say we do all that, but more importantly, is we'll see the shift, right? If their weight shifts, if they cross their arms now.
If they're weight shift, what does that mean?
So if they're over here and then now they're over here,
Yeah, what does that mean?
I don't know. We're gonna find out,
Okay.
right? Hey,
I'm just uncomfortable.
yeah, I'll say, hey
This
Ben,
chair's
I
killing me.
noticed that you kind of shifted a little bit. Did I say something to upset
Oh, you just call them out.
I've got no problems calling it out.
Wow. Okay.
Right? So I'm looking at that, arms crossed, leaning back. If they're doing this, right, they're probably lying. If they're doing this,
Okay.
If they're looking over here and then they're looking over here, I'm looking at all that. I am seeing how their body is positioned. And again, all those like, toes pointing away and this and that, those are all important. But the most important is when things change. So like, if you say something and then like their eyebrows like start twitching, like, okay, like we said something that caused some sort of reaction. So that's what I'm looking for.
Gotcha. I want to take a step back and talk about the real estate.
Yeah.
Right. You did your first flip in 2005, and
So
I say
it
that
was
because
not supposed to be. It was supposed to be a flip. It did not stay a flip, which was the problem.
Yep. And when I was doing, I point out this because I was born that year, not to make you feel bad or anything.
Sure.
I was born that year. And you said that deal flopped.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I bought that property with 3 of my best friends.
Oh.
Right. So, and we're still good friends.
Okay.
But we bought that property, and the goal was to flip it. By the time we were done, because there were a bunch of knuckleheads, right? By the time we were done,
Who, the contractors?
no, us.
Oh.
We were the knuckleheads.
Oh. Okay.
By the time we were done, it was like beginning of 06, and the market's already starting to shift, right? Like it's not 07 yet, but the market's starting to shift. This is a secondary market. This isn't the main market. This is not Phoenix Metro. This is Munns Park, close to Flagstaff, right? So the market started to shift. It was harder to move. Prices, it was just taking longer to sell. And so my friends say, well, if we can't get what we wanted for it, why don't we just keep it as a rental until the market changes? And I was like, no, we bought this to sell. We should sell this and just get back to get to the next property. Unfortunately, I was the only one that said, if we bought it to sell, let's sell it. The other 3 said, let's go ahead and wait this out. And you know how that worked out. So eventually we lost it to foreclosure. We kept this as a vacation rental. I mean, we were using VRBO back in 07. VRBO.com
That's like
was around.
Airbnb, right?
Yeah. VRBO, vacation rentals by owner, was around.
Oh, is that what it stands for?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
That was around back in 07. So we were using VRBO, and like we were using cleaners that were driving down from Flagstaff, which was half an hour each way. It was a nightmare. And we did all of that to break even. We were doing a vacation rental to break even. So it was a flop because we did not execute the plan.
Gotcha. And then 3 years later in 2008, when the housing crisis happened, your net was negative $50,000.
Yeah.
My question is, are you grateful that that happened?
I won't say I'm grateful. It's good that it happened,
in the lesson side.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that it happened because it forced me to, I think, humble myself. It forced me to...
Humbled you in what way?
Because I thought I could do everything. I thought I was invincible, right? Like everything I've ever done in my life, I've been good at, except for sports. Everything else I've done in my life, I've been good at. I got a full ride to ASU. I got a full ride to UC San Diego. They paid me to go to grad school, right?
Oh.
Because they don't talk about it that much, but like if I'm an esteemed someone that's accomplished something, they could say, oh, he's a UCSD product, right?
Okay.
So I was paid to go to grad school, and I excelled there. Not the first quarter, because I didn't realize how hard grad school was, but like I'm competing against the smartest people from India, Korea, China, Taiwan, Sweden, Nigeria, India. Right? I'm competing against the smartest people because in order to get to the U.S., you gotta be one of the best from your country.
Wow.
Right. So I'm competing against these guys in grad school, and I'm kicking their butts. Yeah. So I'm feeling pretty good about myself, right?
Yeah.
And then no one's hiring except for Intel at this time when I graduated.
This is
2004, right?
Oh.
2003.
Okay.
I graduated December 03. So I got my job at Intel at that time. So I get a job at Intel when no one else is getting jobs. So Intel's the only company hiring, and I was the only one that was able to get jobs out of my friends.
Why was it you? Why you?
This is the problem, right? Like I've always done well. Like everything I do, I excel in. And so when I say this humility thing was because real estate was the first time I jumped into something and I didn't crush. So that's why it was a big lesson in humility for me.
Gotcha. I want to go a bit personal if you're okay with that. In 2009, when I was doing research, you mentioned that your wife told you to go back and get a job.
Yes.
What was that like? Because
it was demoralizing, right? Talking about that humility, like my wife still is scarred from what happened in 08, right? And so it was embarrassing, disappointing, demoralizing. And when I quit my job in 07, they told me, if you ever want your job back, it's yours, right? Because at Intel, I also excelled, right? And so like I got exceed expectations on almost every single quarterly, every semi-annual review, and I was lazy. Like I didn't even work that hard. Right?
Wow.
So I always did well there. So they said, if you ever want your job back, it's yours. And so my wife's like, go get that job they said would be available for you. And I went back and they're like, we know we promised you your job would always be here, but Intel's doing so bad, we're not even allowed to hire anybody right now.
Wow.
And thank God, because that was the final nail I needed, because Intel was still that backup plan. If real estate didn't work, I could always go back to Intel. Well, now that boat has been burned, now I can actually like go all out.
So when you say go all out, so you mean wholesale full time?
Well, I didn't really wholesale yet, so now I can go like the realtor thing.
Oh, right.
Right. So like this is when I was traveling to Dallas to get foreclosure listings.
Okay.
So like, you know, one of the things that it was hard to get foreclosure listings. So if you want to be successful as a realtor around that time, you had to do foreclosures, right? You had to list foreclosures for banks.
Yep.
Right. So I was able to eventually get get accounts from Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Fannie Mae, Chase Bank, and a couple other banks. I was able to get those accounts to list those properties for the banks because I went to Dallas and I found the bankers and I got them drunk and we went to the clubs, right?
Yep.
Like I did all those things so I can get the listings.
Yep.
I would not have done that if I didn't have any other options.
Yep.
Right? Because everyone else was going to the websites, going to bankofamerica.com and applying to be an REO agent, or they're trying to work their contacts, this or that. I just went straight to where the bankers were, got their contact info, got them drunk, got business.
Gotcha. I want to pivot again.
Yeah.
About you in regards to sales.
Uh-huh.
Sales, I'll ask you this. What is sales to you?
Sales is getting somebody to buy something that they want. So somebody wants something, you help them get it. That's it. It's not convincing. Most people think of sales as convincing, right? That's the car dealership experience,
Yep.
right? What's it going to take to put you in this car today? I'm not convincing you. All I'm doing is helping you figure out what you want, and I help you get it, so long as I can, right? Like, if you're broke, you got no money, you're not getting any leads, I'm not going to sell you sales coaching. I can't help you there if you can't get leads, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to get full market value and you've got no pain, no urgency, I'm not going to try to buy your house. It doesn't make sense. But
What do you do with those people that aren't urgent, that aren't, they don't need it now?
send it to a realtor.
Let's say like a coaching student, for example. What do? Just put them in your hot list or what?
Okay, so I mean, if they have no urgency whatsoever, I'll probably still refer it to a realtor and get paid.
Let's talk about your coaching. Like
Sure.
your coaching. Let's say let's say I come to you. I'm like, Steve, I saw your Instagram post. I want to learn more. And then we get to the end. My objection is, hey, maybe now's not the right time. I don't need this right now. What are you going to do with me?
You want to role play this?
Sure.
All right. So you don't need this right now.
Yeah. Everything sounds great, Steve. I love what you've done for your other students. But I just don't think now's the right time.
Okay, and it's not the right time because
Because I just don't need it. Like our KPIs are pretty good. I was pretty much I wanted to learn what you have.
okay, cool. So you're closing all your deals.
I forgot what we're pulling. Yes, I am closing all my deals.
You close 100% of your appointments?
Do I close 100? No, I do not.
Oh. Looking back, have there been any appointments that you felt like should have been in contract and wasn't?
Absolutely, I do. A few here and there, yeah.
A few here and there. What's your average fee?
15,000, 20,000.
15,000. Okay. Let's just go on the lower side. Let's say
Let's say
15.
10. Let's say 10.
Call it 10. We'll do easy math. Let's call it 10. How many times do you think that happens a year?
A year, if I had to guess, let's just say once a month. So that's 100,000 or 120 grand a year.
120 grand. Costing 120 grand a year,
Yeah.
but it's not the right time.
I see.
What would you do if you had an extra 120 grand in your pocket right now?
I'd go buy a car, house, XYZ.
Okay. And if you're able to buy, what kind of car would you buy?
BMW.
BMW? What kind?
M4.
M4. That's a fast car.
It is. It's really
Fine,
nice.
that's a fine car. Okay, so only reason why you're not driving an M4 right now it's because you missed a few of those appointments.
Gotcha.
But still, right now is not the right time.
I see. How do I sign?
But like, I'm just going to illustrate
Yep.
what is going on, right? What's the outcome if you don't do it
Yep.
in that instance?
Consequences.
Yeah.
Yep. How do you maximize your sales productivity within your company?
So I talked about how we have a sales manager. One of the best things I have in my organization, I don't brag on them enough, is I have the best freaking VAs,
No.
right?
What makes them good?
So I have one VA, Nikki, and her unofficial title is office snitch,
Wow. Okay.
right? Like she is in the CRMs and she is paying attention, right? Like there's a bright spotlight everywhere in the CRM. You cannot hide. And so if there's an overdue task, she knows about it.
Oh, I see. So she's like a pipeline efficiency manager.
Yeah, if there's a lead without a task assigned, you're going to hear about it. So her job is to just see everything, right? And a lot has also been automated, by the way, now with Zapier. But there's nowhere to hide in the CRM.
Okay.
So we have the VAs whose job is to spy, and they do everything to keep that. Their job is to raise awareness of deficiencies. And our sales manager, his job is to have conversations with everyone when there are deficiencies.
Okay. Do you feel like having does she know she's the office snitch?
I don't think
saying?
I've said that to her directly.
I've
talked
does she have
about
any idea about it?
Oh yeah, she knows that's her job. Her job is to like point out deficiencies.
Do you feel like that affects team culture in any way?
If it does, it's the wrong people. If
Break
they
that
have a
down.
problem with it, then they don't belong in our company.
Why do you feel that way?
Because your job is to change your life's direction, right? Like if you work for me, it's not
Work
because
for you or work with you?
both, right? Great distinction. But if you work in my company, it's because there's something you want to accomplish, whether it's to buy a nice home, retire your spouse, take more vacations, whatever it is, there's something you want to do, right? My responsibility as a business owner is to help you accomplish those goals.
Yep.
So we work it backwards, right? So let's say, what are your goals for this year, right? Or what do you want to do? And you say, I want to do X. Okay, great. Let's quantify it. How much money do you need to make to accomplish your goal? You say 100,000. Great, 100,000. How many contracts per month is that? Okay, we know how many contracts per month. All right. In order to close that many contracts per month, how many appointments do we need to set per week, right? Or how many closings do we need per month, and then how many appointments do we need to sit per week to get that many closings per month?
Yep.
Great. How many conversations do you need to have per day to get this many appointments? Let's figure that out. Okay, so Ben, you've mentioned to me it's important to you to be able to retire your spouse and maybe take one epic vacation next year. In order to do that, you need to make 120,000. And based off all the math here, to get this much money, this many contracts, this many appointments, this many conversations, here's how much work's gonna be involved. You okay doing that amount of work?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, great.
Sounds a lot like a sales conversation.
It's very much a sales conversation. So once we have this conversation, now why wouldn't you want me to help you accomplish your goals?
Oh, so now that's the tie down.
It's your goals.
Yep.
I don't care, right?
Yep.
If you only make 80,000, I'm not gonna have any problem with it. Your wife's gonna have a problem with it. You told me you want to make 120,000 so you can A, B, and C. Why would you not want me to hold you accountable to it? Why would you not want my company to hold you accountable to it?
Yep.
They're your goals. They're not my goals.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Taking a step up, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
Would you say you're more of a visionary or an integrator?
For sure, a visionary.
Why?
So I always think about what can be. My head is not quite in the clouds, but I'm always thinking about what is the next step. What's the next move?
Yep.
Right? I'm always thinking about the next move. I'm not thinking about what's happening today, and I'm definitely not thinking about what's happening in the past. I am always thinking about what's our next move, what's the next strategic step, what am I going to do next to move the company forward?
To me, visionaries are typically the best leaders from my experience and what I've noticed. So for you, what do you think makes a good leader? And the reason why I ask is because a lot of wholesalers that I speak to, because that's who I work with, they are not the best leaders. Like they could be an amazing salesperson,
Yeah.
or they could be an amazing integrator, but their leadership style is very they're like a dictator basically. So for you, how does somebody get out of that and become a better leader that serves their team?
I think step one is you have to want it, right? It kind of goes back to your question earlier. You were asking, like, how do you get salespeople to care? Right? It's the same thing here, right? Like, you have to want to become a better leader. Now, there's two things that are at odds with each other. One is the team can only go as far as the leader can lead them, right? On the flip side of that, the leader can only go as far as the team can carry him. It's a team sport,
Yep.
right? If you're not going to lead your team, then there's only so far you can go, right? So you have to flip this upside down. Everyone thinks about an org chart, an accountability chart, or whatever. You need to flip it upside down where your job is to serve everybody,
Yep.
right? So when I was saying earlier, our sales manager, all day, every day, hey, Ben, what's going on? What can I do to help you get your job done?
Yep.
It's all about servant leadership and helping people accomplish things. So if you don't want to put your people's goals in front of yours, it's going to be pretty hard to accomplish all your goals. Can you? Yes. But one of the most expensive things that not enough people talk about is turnover. Every time someone quits, you got to start over. You don't have the tribal knowledge, right? You don't have, like, they're asking questions. They're slowing down other team members.
Yep.
They have to learn the CRM. They have to learn DocuSign. They have to learn the escrow process. Like, every time you bring someone in, they're starting from scratch. It's a lot of, it's not a distraction because it's necessary,
Yep.
but it slows everybody down. So if you're not going to be a good leader, then the alternative is turnover. And turnover is a silent killer in your
Of all
business.
businesses. Salespeople in any industry have the highest or the role of being a salesperson has the highest turnover in
For
a
sure.
lot of companies.
Yes.
How do you prevent that?
It goes back to what I was saying earlier. My job is to help you accomplish your goals. If I can help you accomplish your goals, why would you leave? Who else is going to help you? Who else is going to care about your goals? Who else is going to help you accomplish your goals?
Do you ever have the saying to your team where it's like, hey, if I care about your goals more than you do, we have a problem?
If I care about your dreams more than you,
Oh, that's true.
yeah, then there's going to be a problem.
Okay.
Right? If I want it for you more than you want it for you, it's not going to work. Because the old way is, all right, I want to buy 500 houses this year. All right, so Ben, you got to do 100, you got to do 100, you got to do 100, right? And I'm putting all this pressure on you. Versus now, it's like, what do you want, right? Let's figure out what you want. Let's figure out what he wants. Let's figure out what she wants. And we add it all up. Does that combine help me hit my goals? If not, I just need to find more people.
Yep.
But if I can find enough people and I can help everyone accomplish their goals, my goals are taken care of. But now it's about me helping you,
Yep.
right? By helping you, I have helped myself,
Yep.
but it's helping you first.
Yep. Leaders eat last.
Yeah.
Okay. Next thing I want to talk about is with leadership and being a visionary. Do you feel like those are your strengths?
I would say no. I would say my greatest strengths are learning and then teaching what I'm learning. I would say those are my greatest strengths. Leadership is just me executing what I've learned. Visionary, I'm just a dreamer. I'm always thinking about what's next. Right? I've got massive shiny object syndrome. I think we finally got it under control. Time will tell. But yeah, I would say learning concepts and then teaching. And I think that's the reason why my coaching program has worked so well, is because I can effectively deliver complex topics on a regular basis so that everyone understands it. So I would say that's my superpower.
You mentioned shiny object syndrome, and I feel like that kills a lot of entrepreneurs. What are some other weaknesses that you have?
My greatest weakness, besides shiny object syndrome, is accountability. It's exhausting for me, right? So now we hire someone that does it. It is just exhausting. Like, for me, it's like, hey, Ben, you didn't hit your numbers. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I can have that conversation. But if I have that conversation twice a day, I'm not doing anything else. I'm not coaching. I'm not having sales conversations, because that's just exhausting, right? It's just getting someone to do their job for me, like, just shoot me, right? So for me, that is my greatest weakness. It's why I pay other people to do it. The other thing is finishing things. That's why I'm saying a visionary, not integrator. I can start
So you have a lot of open loops, basically.
I don't anymore because of the shiny object syndrome is way down. But I complained to someone the other day, like, I got shiny object syndrome. It's a problem. He's like, no, that's not the problem. I said, really? Why isn't that a problem? It's like, your problem, Steve, is not that is that you're thinking about doing too many things. The problem is that you can do too many things. Meaning, I can take an idea and execute it and get the ball rolling and get other people on board with the idea.
Because you're just selling them.
Yeah, well, not just selling them. Like, this is a viable model. I can do something. I can start something from scratch and make money. That's not the problem. The problem is the drain on everyone else's time, attention, and resources. We don't have infinite money. We don't have infinite time. But I used to always behave like I do, right? So like, hey, we got this other project. Hey, we're gonna do this. Oh, we're also gonna do this now. Oh, we're also gonna do this. And each idea on its own will be profitable. But there's not enough bodies to accomplish all these things. So the best thing for me to do is stop starting things, just focus on one that's really good, and take that as far as I can.
How do you improve your focus? And the reason why I mention is one of the mistakes that I made the last year is that I had way too many goals, and transparently, I've only accomplished half of them.
Yeah.
Right. So for one of my goals for me this year that I've not only shared with myself, but a lot of people, my acquaintances that I've spoken to, is to focus on fewer goals. Right. So for you, how does somebody improve their focus?
So I'm gonna give you a lot of resources here. So there's the club. It's a program I did with Paul Sparks. I'm no longer in it. I'm getting back to focus. But the club by Paul Sparks, he really helped me give a lot of clarity on that we don't have the resources we have available to us, which is attention, time, impact, money, energy, and relationships. I always thought the resources we have is time and money and that's it. Like, no, there's other currencies involved. So once I realized I'm squandering these other currencies, that was step one. Step two, Jason Medley, he's a great friend. He's the founder of Collective Genius.
Okay.
Fantastic accountability partner. Anytime I'm getting kind of like wobbly, he'll just come around, focus.
Yep.
Right. Third thing, there's a book by Cameron Herold called Vivid Vision. I sat down and wrote out my 3-year plan in as great a detail as possible. And with how clear that picture was, it made it a lot easier to get really focused on the vision at hand.
So you wrote down your vision on basically like a Google Doc or something.
Yes.
Right? Do you ever check it, or what does that look like? And the reason why I ask is because a lot of people write down their goals, whether it's on their office, their board, whatever the case is, and they either never look at it and it never gets accomplished. So how do you actually set a vision, set a goal, and actually accomplish that goal?
Well, I mean, the great thing is having accountability partners, right? And when I say accountability partners, I'm not talking about like necessarily like one-on-one. I have that too, but I'm talking more like I put this stuff all over social media, right? Hopefully, everyone that's paying attention to me knows I'm trying to create a $100 million company, right? So like I want to do it. I'm doing it. I'm telling people I'm doing it. Like I posted last week, we got an appraisal on our company, right?
What, real estate disruptors?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So we got an appraisal on our company, and I shared that appraisal. Right.
Or can you share it?
Yeah. I mean, we got a valuation for 2.69 million, something like that.
Okay.
2.609 or it's 2.69. But we got, an appraisal.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, hey, you guys heard me talking about I want a $100 million company. I actually got an appraisal done.
I got a tricky question for you.
Yeah.
How do you sell a business when it's when there's key man risk to it? Because you're the only one in it. You're the one doing all the coaching. No?
I'm one of 2 people doing it.
Gotcha. Okay.
Ian Ross is the other person.
Gotcha.
But there's massive key man risk today. Actually, I was having a conversation with someone last weekend, and they're like, they talked me through my vision, this and that. Okay, so like, what's the risk? I was like, there's only one risk. I was like, what's that? If I die.
Yep.
That's the only risk because it's freaking happening.
So what is your plan to remove yourself from key man risk to make the company or increase the valuation of the company?
So the plan is we're going to bring on more coaches at some point, right?
Okay.
So right now I'm the real estate coach, real estate sales coach, right? And another one, there's some other stuff too, because I'm mostly working with teams. Ian's working with a lot of like business owners, right?
Just general business?
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of real estate, but there's some other stuff too, like pest control, whatever. But the goal is to eventually have a solar sales coach, a roofing sales coach, HVAC sales coach, right? Like
HVAC.
having all these different sales coaches.
How do you recruit and vet sales coaches?
I think probably do the same thing. Like I need some sort of statements, P&Ls.
Oh, okay.
P&Ls, balance sheets, whatever. And then also we're gonna role play with them, right? Like I'm gonna role play with them. Ian's gonna role play with them. I need to know you know what you're doing. I need to know that you can repeat back and that you're consistent.
right, with our process. Something that happened, I mentioned earlier, right? I'm not trying to speak bad about my old partner, but when we split ways, he's got his coaching program, his sales training program, I got my sales training program, and there's been some changes, right? Nothing wrong with making changes, but the changes that he has are different than what I believe to be best practices, right? And so, like, if someone comes in as a sales trainer underneath us, we need to be in alignment, right? Because, like, if we're calling our system objection-proof sales, it has to be this umbrella. Everyone has to be speaking the same language, right? So that's how we would A, make sure they're actually doing what they're saying they're doing. B, could actually do what they're saying they're doing. And then C, make sure they're committed to following what we believe to be best practices.
Salespeople go into sales slumps. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think there's a couple different things. There's emotional regulation. There's self-control. There's your financial thermostat, what you believe you're worth. I think what you believe you're worth is big factor in going to slumps. And then they like to wing it. And if you're winging it, you're not following the process, then it's kind of like, going down a river. Like, you're just going with the flow, and if the flow's not going your way, you're kind of in trouble.
Okay. What about when it comes to sleep, energy, what you eat? Is that important for salespeople or no?
Yeah, I think that's important. I think I upset a client or someone that came to one of our live events, because he talked about, like, how we're having a debate about fasting. I'm not a model, for fitness.
Oh, wow.
But he said, like, he liked to go out, take an hour lunch every day. I was like, okay, well,
An hour lunch. Wow.
and I was like, yeah, I'll take an hour lunch. Yeah, I was like, what do you eat? He's like, like to get pasta. I was like, okay, so, like, that hour, what do you think it's costing? He was like, well, he's talking about costing me. I was like, okay, but, like, what's your worth per hour? And he said this. I was like, okay, but you take an hour of that, right? If you're worth $250 an hour or 5 hours, that's $1,250 a week right there. That's $5,000 a month right there just to eat lunch. Let's talk about the lack of productivity if you like pasta, right? Let's just account for another hour for a food coma. That's $10,000 a month.
Yeah.
If your time is worth $250 an hour, you just cost yourself $10,000 a month to go out and get pasta for lunch.
Gotcha.
I don't think it's it.
This entire conversation, every single time you've role played, I've noticed that you're a very logical seller. How do you sell to somebody emotional?
Well, it's that empathy, right? So even though I'm logical, I'm going to ask questions in a way where you'll feel the emotions, right? Because my job is to get you to tell a story or it makes sense for you to work with me. So I'm not going to tell you things. I'm going to ask you questions. So one of the things that's important to me when I'm running a sales process is I'm trying to figure out what's the story you need to tell yourself that makes sense for us to work together. And so, like, I'm in my mind, I am consistently figuring out which direction I want this conversation to go. I don't think you could do that if you're not logical, if you're not rational. It could be wrong, but
that's what's worked for you.
That's what's worked for me, right? Because, like, if this is the outcome you want, I need to help you uncover, right? Because it has to be your story, your reasons for why you want to buy something, right? Or why you want to sell your house. It has to be your reasons. I can only ask you questions to help you uncover those reasons to have me buy your house.
When it comes to when you hop on sales calls with prospects or potential clients, whatever you want to call them, do you ever sort of put them into buckets of, like, what type of personality type they are, prospect type they are?
Yeah, we have to. But I don't put a ton of weight into it. I put a little bit of weight into it. But all I really look at, right, are they D, I, S, or C, right? If they're D, right, it's gonna be shorter appointment. That's all it is. It's gonna be shorter appointment. They're gonna want to go through this faster.
A lot of people at D, could you share? Some people might not know.
So D is dominant personality. If you think about it, the easiest way to think about it, D personality is Donald Trump, right? Like,
yep.
That's D personality. I personality, social, Kevin Hart. S personality, Mr. Rogers, and C personality is just your typical engineer, right?
Mr. Rogers.
Okay, you might be too young for that. But a super stable personality, right? Like, the school nurse.
Okay.
That's an S personality, right? And so if you're looking at the 4 different personalities, and when dealing with a driver, I was going to run this appointment faster because in their mind, they're thinking this is a waste of my time. How do we get them to avoid thinking this is a waste of my time? I'm going to have to be your friend, which sucks because I'm not a person that naturally can instantly create rapport. But I'm going to have to be nicer. I'm going to talk more about your day and your cats and whatever.
Yeah.
Right? S, it's just going to be a longer appointment. You just need more time to process this. And analytical, you're just going to ask me a crap load of questions, and I need to be able to answer them sufficiently to get your business.
So with a D-type personality, a dominant personality, how do you go about holding frame in a conversation like that? So that's what a lot of people struggle with. How do you not only hold frame, but let's say you lose frame, you lose your authority in a call. How do you get it back?
Well, I think it's a couple different things. A, we stroke their ego all the time. Man, Ben, like the questions you're asking, these are great questions. Like nobody asks these questions. They're phenomenal questions.
Really? Wow.
All right. So first thing, we stroke your ego. Other thing, like, look, it seems like you got this figured out. Maybe this is a good fit. Maybe you go somewhere else. And that's pull away. Is really like, well, no, like I don't have it all figured out. It's like, oh, what's going on?
Why do you think that takeaway is so powerful on I call them an E-type personalities?
Because they want to control and they want to exert control. Their job is to posture. They want to let you know they're a big freaking deal. So when you pull away, it's like, I got this figured out. It doesn't seem like, I don't even know why I'm here.
Gotcha. So your sales process, do you teach it in a pillar, or how do you go about training sales?
So in our sales training, so,
For sales process, I mean.
Yeah. So for our real estate people, we have, on Tuesdays, we talk about sales philosophies, right? I think the truths when it comes to sales.
Like what?
Setting expectations, the thing we're talking about, the pull away, how to get pain, how to find motivation, like preventing remorse.
How do you go about setting expectations, not only at the start of the call, but at the end of the call? That way they don't have buyer's remorse.
So setting expectations, and we just having a conversation, right? Like, we have a whole script that we can, talk about, give away later on. But basically, I was just looking for a commitment from you, right? It's be yes or no, and you promised me not to think about it, right? There's a whole framework for that. And then as far as at the end is, again, same thing. It's like, hey, you know what, Ben? If there's any doubt or reservations, concerns you have about this whatsoever, do me a favor, just tear up the contract right now, because I don't want you to, have any remorse about it. Like, no, don't cancel the contract. I'm going to say something like, hey, and you know what? In the next few days, you're going to wake up at night and you're going to think, what the heck did I just do? And I want you to know that feeling is slowly normal. And so now, like later on, when you have like this anxiety, like, oh yeah, Steve said it's going to happen. That's how we prevent remorse.
Gotcha. So I want your opinion on something. So let's say you don't close somebody on that initial call, right? Because in my personal opinion, if you're at 100% close rate, you're not charging up.
Yeah.
Right. So that's my personal opinion. What is your follow-up strategy on a lead? Let's say after they don't close on the first call.
I mean, you got to keep calling them, following up with them.
In what cadence? Like how often are you doing that?
You should call them the next day. I mean, you should have someone from the office, not you call them
Tell me more about that, because I want to dive into that.
So you want someone else that's authority in one way or another to figure out like what we did wrong, why we didn't get the business, right? Is that sad puppy we talked about, so that they're like, oh no, Steve was good. It was just this. It was the price.
Yep.
He showed up late. He just instead of he was paying attention.
I call that our feedback call strategy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is we're gonna keep calling them to figure out what's going on. So first week we're gonna call them a couple times, call them weekly, and then call them monthly, and then quarterly till they die.
Gotcha.
Buyer died.
That buyer died. Wow. Okay, that's awesome. Let's talk about RJ. What the hell is going on with the both of you guys? Like, he talks about, I saw a post from him a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
He says, like, Biden pardoned the Trang dynasty. I was like,
yeah, it deserves it. I deserve that pardon. So
what is going on?
So RJ,
Uh-huh.
who I've been calling him Biden.
You guys are cool though, right?
We're good.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I
we're
was
good.
like, what is going on? I was like, real estate beef? I love this.
Yeah, no. So RJ, I mean, we go way back, right? So even before Pardon the Disruption. So we did Pardon the Disruption together. But this whole deal, we had some people, there was Wholesale Hotline, and on Wholesale Hotline, people were saying that Steve passed some bills to make wholesaling illegal to benefit the installment method, which is a program I've consulted on. And that's what they're saying. Like, Steve made wholesaling illegal in South Carolina, which is like the dumbest thing you could think. Because, like, why would I make wholesaling illegal in another state? And why wouldn't I do it in my state? Right? And so, like, there were people that ran with that. And as people were running with it, I started, like, when people were saying that, instead of, like, denying it, I was like, you're goddamn right I did. Not only did I make it illegal in South Carolina, I'm going to make it illegal in Texas. And not only that, I'm going to make it so that I'm the only sales trainer. Right? And I created content, like, I got a content of me with Biden. I put him on the phone. It's like, hey, I need you to fix this. There's all these sales trainers. So I ran with it. while I'm running with it, RJ's running with it. Like, Steve made wholesaling illegal. He's a problem for the industry and this and that. And then once he started doing that, I'm creating content about him.
Yeah.
So it's been going back and forth. But RJ is a good guy. So we're just having fun on social media.
Absolutely. Okay, because I was really confused when it happened. I was like, oh, what is this? What is this about?
No, he's got beef with people. I'm not one of them.
Okay. Yeah, I really want to get RJ on. You're not the only sales trainer.
Nope.
There's RJ.
He's got King Closer. I wouldn't say he's a sales trainer per se. He has a program for how to close deals nationwide.
Okay, so how do you separate yourself? Because you're also in Phoenix. There's tons of sales coaches. There's Jeremy Miner, Cole Gordon. Good, more like B2B online money. So how do you separate yourself apart from the other competition?
So I would say the biggest thing for us is we teach a framework, right? And that's it. They don't, because they also teach frameworks. But I would say the biggest thing is our goal is to get you to convince yourself, right? How do you sell yourself on buying what I have to offer, right? I think that's the biggest thing. Like, you mentioned Cole Gordon. He's more B2B. Jerry Meyer does B2B and B2C. Great dude, right? Like, I had breakfast with him a year or two ago, right? Good guy. I think for
he's
us,
got to learn sales. Actually, he's pivotal, and this is why I love sales so much. Sales has helped me not only in converting prospects, but it's also helped me in like leadership, speaking,
of course,
communication, things like that. And I find it funny when newer entrepreneurs start out, they're trying to delegate sales. Like, I don't want to sell because I'm an introvert. I feel like those are just lies people tell themselves.
For sure. So yeah, but I would say like for him, I think his is more along the lines of like position yourself as authority, and then asking pointed questions in certain ways. But I think those are all important things. I think one of the areas where we're a little bit different is that he has longer things to say, whereas I like to ask pinpointed questions.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say that's probably the biggest difference. But like, this is like 90, 93, 95% the same.
Yep.
Right. It's just a little bit different. We want to do everything we can to get you to sell yourself, whereas he's at more along the lines of like, make sure you ask these questions these specific ways.
Yeah, I've learned a lot from Jeremy. I'd love to meet him one day. I saw another review from you, actually. It was you speaking at an event where you said you hate wholesaling.
Oh, that was RJ's thing.
But you actually said...
where I hated the wholesaling?
Yeah, you were like throwing a little bit of shade at the wholesaling industry. You're like...
No, I think that was really RJ's thing. So I don't personally hate wholesaling. Wholesaling's made me a lot of freaking money.
Oh.
I don't like real estate.
What do you mean?
So I've been doing real estate forever, right? The joke I've always made is like, I love everything about real estate except for houses and people. Meaning, like, if we can get rid of the people, get rid of the houses, like, it's easy, right? Like, for me, real estate is just boxes. So I've got no qualms with wholesaling, right? Wholesaling has made me a lot of money. Real estate is just a vehicle for my entrepreneurship, right? And then I found something else to be my vehicle for entrepreneurship.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, no,
So what's the... I don't know. I saw it somewhere. I remember you speaking.
Yeah, that was RJ freaking clips, taking things out of context.
Oh, yeah. Okay. See? Well,
yeah. So RJ,
so let's get into me.
Yeah, he's fake news.
He's fake news.
Yeah.
Wow, he calls you fake news. So I love the thing going back and forth. Another thing, a lot of people in the state of Arizona have said there's just saying going around where if somebody has an assignment contract, it's your contract. Could you break that down? Assignment contract for wholesaling?
What do you mean it's my producer?
Because I was with one of my clients right before this, and he was telling me, hey, if somebody has a assignment contract to sell to buyers on a deal, it's probably their contract.
Oh, like my actual contract?
Yeah.
So one of the things that's a little bit different for us is that I believe wholeheartedly in helping homeowners. Right? So if I tell you, Ben, I'm buying your house for $100,000 or closing February 15th, on February 15th, you will get $100,000. That is critically important to me. You're making life-changing decisions based off my promise to you. Right? So, if I'm going to wholesale this deal, I'm going to wholesale to somebody who's going to perform. And so I'm going to wholesale to someone who's going to perform. I've got heavy language in my assignment contract. And my assignment contract says, if you don't deposit earnest money by 12 p.m. the next day, contract's null and void. Right? If you don't have your down payment, your closing costs, and loan docs at the title company 40 hours prior to close, right? I'm canceling the contract and I'm taking your earnest money. Because I need time to go get my money to put it at title so the homeowner can get their money on that particular date. The third thing, if I'm assigning the contract to you, you can't assign this contract to anybody else without my express rate approval. So if you're going to assign it to him, you need to make sure I approve this. And then the last thing is, if I'm assigning it to you and you want to go wholesale it, I need your earnest money. So it doesn't say I'm wholesaling it to you.
That's correct.
And then you're going to wholesale somebody. No, you're depositing earnest money and then you're getting earnest money from him. Because if he doesn't work out, I don't care what's going on. I'm taking your earnest money. So I have very strong language
Yeah,
in there
it's very strong.
because I believe when I make a promise to the homeowner, I am going to honor that promise to the homeowner. And the way I'm going to honor that promise to the homeowner is whoever I sell it to better be the real deal. And the last thing I was doing before I stopped wholesaling was actually, if you wanted to buy my deal, you had to pay my earnest money to me, not to the title company.
So is that straight profit for you?
It's not profit. I mean, you buy it, right? So, but if you were paying me the earnest money through Stripe, right? You can pay the earnest money through credit card. I don't care.
Oh, okay.
I'm sending you a Stripe link, right?
Okay.
For 3K or 5K. Once you pay it to me, I'm not going to hear any nonsense about, hey, I need more time. I'm not going to hear any nonsense about, hey, I need to lower the price. You already gave me $3,000 or $5,000. You're not changing your mind. You're not playing games. So that was the last thing we did. That's not in our assignment contract, but that was the last thing we did.
Another thing I want to ask you is what is your personal opinion on all of these other sales gurus and the way they sell? Some of them are hard closer; they'll yell at you and everything. Other people are very like, what's a good way to put it? They like guilt trip you into buying.
Guilt?
I don't know if guilt trip's the best way to put it, but they'll like manipulating. I guess it's like.
So I think the biggest thing, the greatest contrast, I think, there are a lot of good sales trainers and there are a lot of not so good sales trainers. The not so good sales trainers tend to be more of the car guys, right? They come from the car industry.
Yep.
And I don't mean to beat up on the car guys, but car sales has a unique distinction from real estate sales. In real estate, if I get you to agree to sell your house to me today, I need you to feel good today. I need you to feel good tonight. I need you to feel good next week. I need you to feel good in 30 days. And however long it takes for you to close. Because I need you to feel good on closing day that you're signing the contract.
Yeah.
This is a long sale.
Absolutely.
In car sales, the moment you drive off the lot, this deal's done. Right? There's no right of rescission. There's no 3-day period. There's no inspection period. There's no due diligence. It's done.
Yep.
Right? So for that pushy sales, it works. There's no recourse for canceling. Or there's no canceling.
Yep. Deal's
a deal. Right? In real estate, I need to be sold for a long time.
Yep.
I can't be pushy, right? Because if I get you to sign this contract today, but I was pushy about it, why are you shutting up a closing day?
I see.
I want to transition to your podcast because that's when I first learned about, like, when I heard real estate disruptor. Is that what it was called back then? Or?
Real estate disruptors, yeah.
Okay, yeah, real estate disruptors. When I heard that, it was Stephen Max.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, how did you start the podcast? What motivated you to start the podcast?
So it wasn't quite Stephen Max just yet, right? Around that time. It was really more.
At least when I started finding out.
Yeah, no, it very quickly. It was around that same time, right? But what started the podcast?
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Victor Heredia, another big player in town.
I've hit. Yeah, he's hit me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's another big player in this town. So he's like, hey, Steve, I got an extra ticket to the Edge with Dean Graziosi.
Okay.
You want to come check it out, right? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll check it out, because like one of those deals, $97, bring a friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he invites me, I commit to going, and then around the same time, my grandmother passed.
Oh, I'm sorry
right?
to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. So legitimately, not the stuff that I've been joking about on social media, legitimately, like my grandmother passed, right? And so and I had to say that because I wrote a post the other day about like how anytime a salesperson asks me how I'm doing, I always tell them my grandmother just passed.
I remember that. Yeah, I thought it was funny.
So no, legitimately, like my grandmother had just passed. We had just celebrated her 100th birthday. And so like it was a moment there where even though I didn't have the best relationship with my grandmother, it was still easy to look around. It's like this woman created a legacy, right? Like she was a single mom when my dad was 8, right? My grandfather passed before, I got to meet him. because passed when my dad was 8, right? Yeah. But even though that happened, like my dad's got multiple siblings, and so she was able to still run a household where all of them were able to make it to America, right, from Vietnam, are able to all make it to America, and all were able to put all their kids through college and have like their meaningful contributing members of society, right? Like that's a legacy.
Yep.
For a person who's a single mom who grew up, basically in a farm.
Yeah.
To make that happen. So I leave the funeral. It's on a Friday morning, and then get to Dean Graziosi's event.
Wow.
So I'm still wearing the suit from the funeral at the event, right? I mean, I probably took the jacket off, but I'm wearing the same outfit to the event. And while I'm there, so I'm thinking legacy and impact, right? Brandon Burchard is on stage at a Dean Graziosi event, The Edge, talking about people want to hear your story. And I'm thinking this whole time, like, this guy's full of crap.
Yep.
He's got a product he wants to sell. He's got a course he wants to sell. And he's like, everyone wants to hear a story. Either, write a book, start a blog, or start a podcast. And at this time, I already wrote a book. It was a marketing book, but I wrote a book, had a blog for SEO purposes, also nothing. But you know what? Let me just do this podcast, see what happens. So I started the podcast, and if you notice from episode 1 is I'm on a mission to create 100 millionaires, right? Impact and legacy.
Yep.
And so that was what, it was two things, was like, in order to create a legacy. But, Brendan Burchard says people want to hear it. Well, let's see if he's right. Yeah. So we started a podcast, and here we are.
Gotcha. And the beginning of every podcast episode, you say your goal is to create 100 millionaires, right?
Yes.
Why 100? Why not 1,000? Why not 10,000?
Well, at the time when I launched the podcast, I didn't know where it was going to go, right? So prior to the podcast, my goal was I wanted to create 18 millionaires, right? Because that was the same exact number that Andrew Carnegie had created a long time ago.
Oh, okay. I was like, well, I don't know a guy right now named Andrew Carnegie.
No, a long time ago, right? Because they interviewed him back in the 30s.
Wow.
And they're like, hey, Andrew, you've got 18 millionaires that work for you. Like, how did you make that happen? Right? Because a millionaire in the 1930s is a lot of freaking money.
Yes.
Right? And his answer was, you're asking the wrong question, because they weren't millionaires until they started working for me.
Ooh.
Right? He created millionaires. Right? If you were in his circle, if you worked his company, you created wealth. Right?
Yeah.
And so that was my mission when I started studying homes realty, the brokerage, which no longer exists.
Okay.
So when I started the podcast, like, well, I'm going to create reach. I don't know how big this is going to be. So 100, that'd be a pretty cool number. We have exceeded all expectations on that podcast. So, but that's the reason why I was 100.
Expectations in what way?
I didn't know what was going to happen, right? Like, I've done all these other things that have not worked.
Yep.
I've tried so many things that bombed, right? It's like, let's see where this goes. Like, I'm not saying like I was a failure. Like, when I started the podcast, I was pretty well known in the Phoenix market as a realtor.
Because there was at a moment where you owned 1% of the real estate Phoenix market.
Yeah. So our brokerage did 1%. 1% of every transaction in the Phoenix market went through my brokerage. So I'm not saying I'm a failure. I'm just saying like nothing I've done has like boom, like like put me on a rocket.
Yep.
The podcast put me on a rocket and created this story.
Yep. Creating a rocket in what way? Just reach or opportunities? Break that down for me.
Reach, authority. It's open doors that weren't previously opened. I can walk into a room, people know who I am. I get this authority and respect, which I also say is undue, right? I think I get way more respect and credibility than I deserve. Just a regular guy. But because I have that podcast, I have this reputation that people look up to. People want to be in my network, want to be in my circle, want to collaborate, create opportunities together. So like it's opened so many doors for me just because I started a podcast.
Okay. And you've done over 300 plus episodes, if I'm not mistaken.
We've done over 300 episodes.
Do you know the exact number?
I don't know the exact number, but it's probably somewhere around 330 to 360, somewhere around there. Because I know we a long time ago, we hit past 300 because iTunes only allows 300.
Oh, okay.
Right? So once you hit 300, it doesn't show anymore.
Oh,
so
wow.
I know for sure we're past 300 because we're back. It goes all the way to 2020.
Oh, wow.
And we started in 18.
Wow.
Yeah.
What are some of the lessons and mistakes that you've made throughout recording 300 plus episodes with your podcast?
Oh man, mistakes. I can't think of a whole lot. Oh, there was one, for sure. So I'm in the business. You know, I bought my first property in 2005. I did my first transaction as a realtor in 2007. Right.
Good
So
crash.
we're around 20 years in the business.
Correct.
I still have a horrific BS meter. Right. Like if
Horrific,
things,
you said?
yeah. So
Okay.
like if things aren't going well, I can tell by the way you move and so on. Right.
Okay.
But like if you're on social media, it's like I do 20 deals a month. There's no way for me to tell if you're legitimately doing 20 deals a month,
Correct.
right? Like I am in this world. I have friends in this world. Someone proclaims these numbers. I can't tell if they're honest or not. So I had to require HUDs.
Wow.
That's why these people say like Steve requires HUDs.
Yep.
I require HUDs because I can't tell if you're real or not, right?
Yep.
You can seem genuine and real, but I don't really know for sure because I can't validate it. And that's so if you hear rumors or you hear people saying like Steve requires HUDs, that's the reason why. Is because I want to make sure whatever your claim, whatever you're saying, this is what I do,
Yep.
it needs to be substantiated.
Yep.
It'd be irresponsible of me to have someone come on the show, say I do 30 deals a month when they're a freaking fraud,
Yep.
right? And so I require that. So there was one particular guest who was like, he said, I am the top wholesaler in Houston. I was
I'm from Houston,
yeah,
for context.
yeah. So he's like, I am the number one wholesaler. I am the top wholesaler. I'm the biggest guy. I was like, well, that's a pretty crazy claim to make.
I feel like I know who it is.
Yeah.
I think we can talk off, but
Yeah.
I think I know who
Yeah,
it is.
right. I was like, okay. I mean, if he's gonna make that claim, you know, we won't validate it because that's a crazy claim. Like, why would you put this bullseye on your back, right? If I said I am the number one wholesaler in Phoenix,
Yeah.
there are gonna be a lot of people that are gonna reach out to you later on. If we started this podcast, like, I'm Steve Trank, I'm the number one wholesaler in Phoenix.
Somebody's gonna clip that and start posting. I'm just joking. Please don't do that.
You're right. Someone, you know, RJ Bates probably will. So
Oh, what? I want to dive into that. What is the beef between you
we'll talk
guys?
about that later on. But what happened after you publish that episode? You're gonna get a call from Brent Daniels. You're gonna get a call from Jamil Damji. You're gonna get a call from Pace Morby, and like, hey, he's full of crap, right? Like, it'd be insane to put that kind of bullseye on your back.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, if he's gonna claim that, all right, we don't need to validate it.
Yeah. Because okay.
And it was entirely untrue.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So obviously you have criteria besides HUDs. What are you looking for whenever you vet people to hop on your podcast?
So I'm looking for two things. First, do you have a story, like a hero's journey arc, right? Do you have a compelling story that's like, it's interesting, right? Like someone can see that and see themselves in the story. So that's number one. Number two is, do you have something compelling that you've accomplished, right? You know, if it's real estate disruptors, now it's disruptors. Are you doing anything that's compelling, right? Because we need, for the title, some sort of hook
Yeah.
that is clickbait worthy.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So if you don't have anything compelling, then like, well, I don't have anything to work with. So you need to be interesting, and your story needs to be interesting. Those are the two things I'm looking for.
Gotcha. And actually doing or proof behind what you say you've done.
And you need to prove whatever the hook is. You need to prove the hook.
Do you ask for people's bank statements as well?
We've had people submit their bank statements in lieu of HUDs.
In lieu of HUDs.
Right. Like we're like, hey, we want this. They're like, can we just give you bank statements? Like, yeah, sure. I mean, if you're okay sharing that, then yeah, let's go ahead and
Bank
do that.
statements, P&Ls, just
Yeah.
send everything over.
That's fine.
And then you look
As
at it
long as we
like,
can
damn.
substantiate the claim.
Yep. Another thing I have is your podcast has, from what I've seen as a viewer, has almost turned into its own business, right? So my question is, how do you manage running the podcast on top of your other companies, like your coaching program?
Well,
Because you don't have your brokerage, you're not wholesaling anymore, none of that.
nope, no real estate anymore. So someone else runs that. I mean, some multiple people runs that, right? So like some are an organization.
Your podcast?
Yeah. So she's my right-hand person. She manages my schedule. She coordinates with people that want to come on the show. Like people are interested. She sends them an application, does a follow-up, does the scheduling. She does all that, right? And then the media guys, everything's done through Asana. So it's all project management. So like the media guys know who's coming. The form's been filled out beforehand. We've got the headshots and everything else to create the thumbnail, right? And then when they come in, Elias on our media team sits down with them and gets some more stuff just to figure out like what's the story is going to be exactly, as well as, you know, what's a good hook for a title.
Wow.
after all that's done, our VA in the Philippines, uploads it to iTunes. Our guys upload it to YouTube, and then right now I am the one that's creating the copy to promote it. Right. So Sunday morning, I sit down. It's like, all right, how do we want to promote it? So I'll write some copy, send an email, post on Facebook, and then record an Instagram story.
Okay.
So, because like on Instagram, they need the video.
Yeah.
On Facebook, the picture and the copy is good enough. Email, the picture and the copy is good enough.
Correct. Yeah.
So that's what we're doing on Sunday mornings. That's what I'm doing Sunday mornings to get the push.
Gotcha. One of the final questions I have for you is, I'm 19 right now, right? And I think everybody can agree that you're a little bit older than I am, right? If you could, what is one thing you'd tell your 19-year-old self if you could?
Start earlier. I remember when I was at Intel specifically, right? This is I was 24 years old, maybe 23, 24 years old. And they were saying, hey, we're doing a workshop for 7 habits of highly effective people. I was like, no thanks. I got it. Right?
Okay.
I'm already a successful person. Right? This is before the humility lesson.
Is that 19?
No. Well, no. This is 23, 24. This is before the misery of 2008, right?
Oh, okay.
I was like, I'm good. I'm obviously successful. I don't need any more. I don't need to learn anymore. I already paid my dues through college.
Yep.
Right? So I was not coachable.
Gotcha.
So start learning, start working on yourself. That is the best investment you can make. I think that's what
Awesome. I appreciate that. And finally, tradition I have on this podcast is a previous guest, and he doesn't know who you are, he doesn't know anything about you, would ask you 2 questions. And I like to carry that tradition onward. So 2 questions, you don't know who the previous guest is. I guarantee you wouldn't know, right? They ask you, the first one is, what is your purpose in life?
Create millionaires, right? I'm looking to change the legacy. I think at some point in the last 10, 15, 20 years, profit became a bad word, right? I am pro-capitalist. I'm unashamed.
I wish you could go longer.
Unabashedly capitalistic. So that's it. Create millionaires to really emphasize this capitalist society.
Yep. The second question is, who do you call or reach out to for advice?
Depends on the problem. So I'm very lucky that I have a friend from every situation. Whatever the problem is, I know someone that's had that problem.
That's awesome.
So there's no one person. There's a lot of people.
Yep. Now, again, I appreciate you sharing all that. It really means a lot. For the next guest, you don't know who it is. The only thing I'll tell you is they're an entrepreneur and they're probably a client. So what are 2 or even 3 questions that you would want to ask them?
Oh man, question I would ask someone.
I'll give you an example. One of the questions one of our previous guests asked, who was a client, asked the next guest was, what do you believe in?
Let's see here. Questions. I mean, general questions I like to ask people is
That you would actually like to know.
Yeah. I mean, the questions I always ask people is, let's see. What is your biggest struggle? How are you dealing with it? And then, so what else there is? What are you most excited about?
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Steve, for hopping on. Guys, if you enjoyed this, actually, where do people find you?
Yeah, so the best thing I was saying earlier, we have a script giveaway.
Oh, what's
So script giveaway, my book, Active Listening 2.0, and then a bunch of other videos I created for content that will actually legitimately help you. Like, you'll get better at sales just by watching those videos. And then complimentary script review with Ian Ross. I think that's the other coach. So if you text script to the phone number 33777, script SCRIPT to the phone number 33777, you'll get all that plus complimentary script review with Ian Ross.
awesome.
And then beyond that, Disruptors is on iTunes, on Spotify, on YouTube, on Instagram at steve.tran.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you sharing that. Guys, that's all we have for this one. We went a little bit over time. Steve, as always, I appreciate you coming on. Guys, if you enjoyed this, please do not forget to like, comment your takeaways from Steve here, as well as subscribe. That's all I have for this one. I'll see you in the next one. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.